Hi, it's Craig on my R2 Builders channel, and on this video I am going deeper into budget building, talking about remote controls and Droid functions with real simple basic controls that do not require complicated circuit boards and programming to make your droids do all these functions. I just like to keep it simple, so let's get started. To grasp the concept of remote control, we're going to take a step back in time and look at a way I did something over 20 years ago, just so you get grasp the basics of RC. This was something I did in my Droid way long time ago. We have a remote control receiver right here. This receiver had a battery pack that sat on this shelf. This wire from this battery pack went in here, came up to this switch so we could turn the receiver on and off, and then it powered the receiver by plugging into this battery connection right here. Then we had 4 channels output. These 4 channels went to these 4 servos. These 4 servos had linkage arms that went to these forward-reverse switches. So my entire Droid was controlled by forward-reverse switches to motors or to other functions. So like over here I had 2 servos that went to 2 forward-reverse switches. These controlled R2's motor drives in his left and right feet. So this Droid was full forward, full reverse, and with dual stick on the remote control, it was like tank drive. I drove him like a tank. Then we had another servo over here which did forward reverse on the motor for dome rotation, so the dome rotated left and right. And then I had a forward reverse switch here for the 2 to 3 legged conversion functions. This was really basic, and we've moved on from it. We are no longer living in the Stone Age. We have something now called speed controllers. These speed controllers, this is a Robot Power Scorpion XL, and this is a Sabertooth. And the way these work is you have power going in here or going in here, and then we have power going out to the foot drive motors, and these wires here plug into your receiver, and these take the signals from the transmitter and they put power out to the motors, very controlled. You're moving the joystick a little, it puts power out to the foot a little, so you get full range movement on the droids with these speed controllers. What's nice about these speed controllers is they have something called BEC. It's a battery eliminating circuit. And when you engage the battery eliminating circuit, the power coming in knocks it down to like 5 volts, and through these signal wires going to the receiver, this powers the receiver. There's no longer a need for a battery pack, and there's no longer a need for a switch to turn on and off your RC receiver. When you power up the Droid, it automatically gets powered up. Let's take a step back here and take a look at a very basic layout on one of my Droids. Here's my receiver. The receiver is going to get powered through the battery eliminator circuit on one of these 2 boards. This board is actually a Scorpion Mini, which turns out it didn't work. I went with the Scorpion XL. And then this is a single speed controller for the dome. I've engaged the battery eliminator circuit on one of these 2 boards, not both. And this controls all of my Droid functions. I've got left and right foot control. I have got dome rotation, left and right. And then this servo plugs in, and when I throw a toggle switch on my remote control, this servo turns all the way one way or all the way the other way, and it engages these switches, which does the 2 to 3 legged conversions. This is as simple as it gets for controlling a Droid, driving him around, rotating the dome, and also 2 to 3 leg conversions. And then of course on here I've got my ground bus, I've got my fuses for my positive line. I like the glass fuses because if you're at an outing and you got a Droid where things aren't working and you're trying to troubleshoot, I like the glass fuses because they are at a glance. If a fuse is blown, it's obvious. If you get the little colored spade fuses, you have to physically pull those and inspect them to see if they've blown. Here it's at a glance. I like that. So the only thing that's really not evident here is like the Droid sounds. And what I've done is I've taken another servo. Instead of a wheel, I've got a servo with a like an arm that sticks out. And when this arm swings one way, it hits a button for a soundboard. And then when this arm swings the other way, it hits a button for, like say on my mini mech, this is a momentary button for a power trunk release actuator, a solenoid. So on that droid, when I move the joystick, when I just feather the joystick up, it triggers a sound, and when I feather the joystick down, it pops the panels open. So, and I'm saying this because I run into a lot of people at outings, and they see my droids driving around, zipping around, heads rotating. The droid is chattering. It's doing 2 to 3 legged conversions. Panels are popping open, and they say, "Boy, I just would hate to see all the complicated circuit boards and programming that you had to do in this droid to do all this stuff." And I'm like, there is no programming. It is real simple, basic switching like this. And there is a way to do this where it's cheap and simple. So like right here is a real good example of just getting a really simple, cheap servo with an arm, and when you swing the arm one way, it hits a button for one function, and when the arm swings the other way, it hits a button for another function. So one channel on your remote control can do 2 things. Speaking of remote control, I've got to talk about HobbyKing is a place where I've been getting my radios lately. They are very cheap is the word, about 32 bucks, no frills. However, they're pretty reliable. They don't have a built-in battery pack rechargeable. You pretty much just load these up with 8 AA batteries. There is, however, a recharge port on the side, which I haven't had a chance to experiment with. I suppose I could put 8 rechargeable AA's in here and then find the proper wall transformer to plug in here to recharge the batteries in here without having to pop them out and put them in a battery charger. The problem with HobbyKing radios is the joysticks. You know how joysticks work, where you push it forward, back, left, and right, and they are spring-loaded and they return to center. This one right here, left and right, is returned to center, but up and down, it is not. It's just got a friction arm in there. And even though my pictures here are out of sequence, I'm going to show you how I corrected that. Here's the friction arm. There's this curved piece with these little teeth on here, and then screwed to this portion here is this metal, and this that rides on those teeth. And that is so whenever you move your joystick, it kind of stays where you last set it. Get rid of that. Say bye-bye to it. And what I had done was I had taken this right here is the return, the spring-loaded return to center arm. I took this out of the other joystick. I unloaded the spring. I flipped it straight up vertical. I pulled it off the pin, and I brought it over this piece of plastic, and I traced it out. And then I put this back. Before I put this back, I kind of measured that spring. I measured the distance on the spring. I kind of got a feel for how strong that spring was. So then I could go to Ace Hardware, True Value, go through their little drawers and their bins of springs so I could find a spring that was comparable. But I took that trace and I made another return to center spring-loaded arm. Cut it out, filed it, rat tail file here, drilled the hole. I don't recall if I had to heat up and bend this plastic to match that, if it was the same or it was a mirror image. So before you heat this up and bend it, just make sure that you're bending it the right way, so when you install it into the radio, it is bent the correct way. Yeah, it does look like this was bent the same way. So with the new homemade return to center spring arm built, I had it vertical, slid it onto the pin, swung it down sideways, There's a little notch right here for the spring to fit over, and now this is return to center spring loaded for this joystick to come back to center. So like on this Droid, I think I've got single stick drive on one channel, these two channels. I've got dome rotation left and right. I've got sound here. I've got spring-loaded panels popping open with a power trunk actuator here. I've got a servo switch here so I can deploy or retract 2 to 3-legged functions. That's it. Real simple Droid controlling on a budget. So this is Craig on my R2 building channel. I hope you learned something, and if you did, give me a like or maybe even possibly subscribe. We will catch you later. Bye-bye.